You wake up in the morning, you've reached for your phone even before your feet have touched the ground. Your phone, alongside other organizations, applications, have logged when you first woke up. You didn't sign anywhere or write anywhere that this is your waking time. You got up, you showered, got ready, and you drove to work. Already there's a location trail between where you live and where you work, where you live and where you worship. There's an inference of your faith, of your mindset from not sharing anything literally. And this is today's world. About 2 decades ago, collecting data was majorly for advertising, for advertisement, for sharing what organizations, what businesses felt was needed by an individual. But today, data collection, data brokers are going in a direction that has become very, very alarming. And this episode is to empower you, is to explore the concept of data sovereignty, what it means to have full control over every form of data that comes from your life. And we can start from somewhere. We have to start from somewhere because the data that is inferred, is observed from you, is collected from you, is extracted from you in one day, sometimes even in a few hours, is more than an investigator could get in a week just 50 years ago. And so, what is data sovereignty? What does it mean to have full, total control over the data about you, the fact that represent you across sometimes thousands of organizations, different third party cloud infrastructure, data brokers that have no relationship with you? Now, I know that the common thought is I don't have anything to hide. Well, why should I be conscious of ABCEFG? Why should I think about what data this app has about me or this platform receives about me? Why should I read the terms and conditions or the privacy notes? Sometimes it's overwhelming. And I understand why you can feel like just giving up, or you feel like you're not techie enough, you're not that smart to keep up with all of these things. But there is a simple framework you can use, and that's what I'm going to be sharing to ensure that you have full data privacy. Data privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is having the full power to disclose what you want to disclose. With whom, in what context. For example, the conversations you would have with your doctor is not the same you'd have with your employer. The conversations you would have with a stranger is not the same you'd have with a friend. It doesn't mean you're deceitful. It only means that you are taking charge on what you share and where you see necessary, right? So privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is the right to disclose as necessary, to disclose when you should disclose. That's actually what privacy is. And we can't say because so much has been done already, we should give up. It's the same way you would not agree with me that if a robber were to rob your home, you would now begin to leave the door open because maybe you wanted them to just come in freely the next time and not break the door. No, you will take safety measures to ensure that you never get robbed. And that's the same with data sovereignty. That's the same with having the power, the autonomy of privacy over the facts out there that represent you. You're not doing it because you're concealing anything. It's the same way that you lock the bathroom door where you want to shower. Not because you're going to do something criminal in there, but because you know that it is your right to have privacy. It's the same way that you seal a letter because it's your right to have the correspondence. And so let's dive in to where we are right now. Several years ago, several decades ago, it was very easy and straightforward. People would have very limited information about you and call you and ask you if you were interested in something. But today we have third-party cookies, aside first-party cookies on your phone right now, tracking you across the websites that you visit and sharing that data with bidding systems, with several data brokers and organizations you do not even know. This happens in seconds. So you enter a website, and in that moment, your data is shared with millions of automated bidding systems to bid an ad for you to be shown. And sometimes it's helpful, but at what cost? Already sensitive information has been shared with several data brokers. It gets more interesting when you think about the fact that even though browsers like Brave and some other very wonderful browsers have been able to limit some measure of tracking, there's something called browser fingerprinting, where certain things are inferred about you. When you visit a site, they can know the kind of phone you use, they can know the font, they can know some small details ranging into several attributes that can be used to infer certain things about you. Or you have maybe listening devices in your home. You have IoTs. I wouldn't want to mention names. And they tell you that, oh, these things, they only listen when you call its name, when you call out to it. But they have 247 listening modules already pre-installed. And so as a family, you're already exposed. And the list is endless, really, of how data is being extracted from individuals. There is an economy that has engines that continually extract data from every one of us. You have the attention part of it, the attention engine that tries to hold your attention. It doesn't care if it's through fear or outrage, which is the most common form of attention, or anxiety. It has automated things set through the algorithm, autoplay to help you keep them scrolling, notifications to invite you back into the app, because they know that attention is profitability. If they can hold your attention, they can keep selling to you. You have the profiling engine of this extraction economy where they profile your behavior. They study your dwell time, how long you scroll, what you're interested in. You have the infrastructure engine of it. Those who digital rent is paid to, those who own the cloud, they own the cables, they own the data centers, and they get their own part. And then you now have the identity engine, which honestly is the most scariest, because every time you have Face ID, you have your biometrics, you have your fingerprints, you have all of these things, it is stored somewhere. And I'm not trying to sound a bad or a wrong alarm, because ideally, some of these platforms that hold this sensitive data, this sensitive information, they promise you optimal security. But what happens when they are hacked? And it happens again and again. We hear of big cloud providers, we hear of major data centers, major data brokers being hacked. And so 10 years ago, this would not really matter, because you'd be like, listen, what can we do? But right now, data is no longer about selling something to you. Data will now be about jading you, restricting you, because there are three forms of data that is majorly collected about you, from you. There is data you provide, the forms you fill, the pictures that you post, and you can decide, you know what, I want to be incognito. I'm not going to post so much about myself. I'm not going to put so much online. But that's the small fraction of the data that these data brokers collect. Because there's data that is observed when you have location turned on for apps that do not need that feature. They trace where you go to, how long you stay. And through that, they can observe certain things about you. And the worst of all is data that is inferred. You might know and say, okay, I know what I provided to this. I know what I filled in the form. I know what pictures I shared on this platform. But do you know the data that has been inferred about you? Do you know the data that has been observed about you? Some of this data is sold to insurance companies. Some of this data is sold to employers. It affects your credit score. It affects several things. And it's only getting more interesting now with artificial intelligence, with automated decision making. And so what you want to do is to not just control what you provide. That's the weakest, smallest door. What you want to do is to understand your rights. What you want to do is to ensure that, for example, you don't use one email for all of your accounts. If you are in that boat, you have one email address that you use for your social media, the same email address is used for your banking, the same email address is used for other things that you do online, then you know that you're in the wrong boat. Or you have one password or a common set of passwords you use for all of your financial accounts and your social media accounts, then you know that you're in the wrong boat. You should have different email addresses for in fact, at a point, if you are an investigative journalist, or you're someone who has felt like you've been stalked, or you're someone who is an activist, good people, you're doing something good and you feel like there are bad actors that might want to hack you, hack your data, do wrong things to you, you should even have email aliases. You should even use a very secure encrypted emailing platform. You should have a password manager that generates unique passwords for different platforms that you're on. These are very simple things that you can get started on. You don't need any sort of tech expertise or any sort of advanced cybersecurity skill sets. No, they are very simple and straightforward. It just takes paying attention. It takes not waving it off and say, you know what, I don't really care. These guys are too big. You should have two-factor authentication, not just email and then your number, but you should even have an authenticator app. These are simple things that, when done, when you just begin to pay attention to these things, evaluate the IoT devices in your home, read terms and conditions. Read privacy notes, no matter how long. Take your time to read them. If you can't read them, copy everything and let AI summarize it for you. Even that's not so, because it's better you read them. But if you can't, then you can do that, because it's one thing to know the data that is collected about you. It's another thing to know the systems that process that data. It's another thing to know the decisions that are being made from that data. According to the Data Act, when you read the Data Act, over 130 countries have unique data act, and all of them align with the same thing, that you have right to access data that has been collected about you. You have right to delete that data. You have right to erasure. You have right to update that data. You even have the right to write to a company or email an organization you feel has data about you and ask them all of the data they have about you. In fact, I want you to visit a website, since you arrived.world/taking. Since you arrived.world/taking. Go on that website, and it's going to show you many of the things I'm talking about. It will show you in a practical sense, which will really, really help you. Because in this dispensation, in this age, with the several things that are happening, we have to begin to understand what data sovereignty is, what it means to have full control. And don't get me wrong, we need to collect data. In fact, if you're a builder or you're someone, you're a steward, you run an organization, you run a school, you're a bank, whatever it is, you agree with me that data collection is very important. But how that data is collected is where we are standing on right now. Because some people have done it morally, some people have done it immorally, some people have done it legally, some people have done it illegally. But I want you to have that power. And I never want you to feel like, it's overwhelming. Let me just let it be. No, I want you to have, because you might be a father, you might be a mother. And even if you're not anyone's parent, you have loved ones. Even if you don't care about yourself, bad actors having access to your data can affect your loved ones. We're in a time of deep fakes. We're in a time of all kinds of hacks. People are getting their YouTube accounts hacked. People are losing their Instagram accounts. People are having fraudulent experiences, and it's only going to get worse now with the coming of quantum computing. Because you can say that as an organization, your data at rest is encrypted, your data in transit is encrypted, but you're going to have quantum computers trying to attack and break that encryption. And so, simple steps. Let's take baby steps. Review email addresses. If you have one email addresses you use for everything, Netflix, your bank account, your social media, try to review that. If you have, you use the same password for all of your things, your account, try to review that. Have a password manager. Use Brave. If you're an investigative journalist, use Tor browser. The list is endless. You know your context. You know where you're at, right? So you can do a simple research on certain things that need to be done. There are even platforms that help you buy out of certain things you shouldn't be on. So you can check them out. There are platforms that can help you see accounts that you still have on services or platforms you're no longer using. And so when you begin to take these simple steps, what you will do is you will add to everything you are doing now to become successful, to preserve wealth, to live a good life, security. So a major part of your security as we move into this wonderful future will be data sovereignty. So I want you to own it. Own it. I want you to be very aware, self-aware. I don't just want you to cower in and say, oh, no, let me not write this out there. And of course, be careful what you put out there. But remember that what you put out there is not as big and not as bad as wrong data observed about you or wrong data inferred about you. So I hope that you put these things to work. Thank you.